Hello, I'm Kara Stonehouse from the Hague Center, and I'd like to share with you today the joy of meshworking. Okay, so in the world, we know we have these wicked problems, these problems that are very complex. They're always changing. Everything is interconnected. They have historical roots and power dynamics, and we don't know where to start. We don't know what to do. Nobody has the answers. But there's a great old saying in systems thinking that says you can start anywhere and follow it everywhere, because really everything is connected. So that gives you the freedom to say, well, wherever you feel like having energy to start, that's a good place to start. And the best way to make real impact is to invite people to join in the conversation, to see the system together and become dedicated together to creating the vision that the world that you really want to make in your city or on your issue. So let's look at meshworking more deeply. So meshworking is a process. It's usually a facilitated process where a small group brings more people together. You convene representatives from the whole system. So very often we're in a nonprofit, or we're in a business, or we're in government, and we're working that way, and we're working on those issues in the way that group always does things. And what meshworking is a collective process, a multi-stakeholder, sometimes it's called a multi-stakeholder process, where you bring together those different types of representatives to the system to have dialogues together and build trust, because that is where the systemic problems fall through the cracks. It's not my job, it's not my job, it's not my job. But if we come together and decide that we want the world, we want the outcomes to be better, then we say, we have to put that in the middle and work on it together. So we come, and they have to come into relation with each other, and because often we judge the other. Business people are like this. Government are like that. Oh my God, NGOs. But instead, or the doctors and the nurses. But when we come together, share our perspectives, and show how hard we're working and how much we care and what the challenges are, then we just realize, we just see, you're a real person. You actually care. You are trying. And if we do this and this and this, maybe we could get some better results. So it just shifts from judging and blaming and apathy to connection, commitment, and creativity. So when we can come together on a shared purpose, that's what can cohere those different types of players together. Sometimes we can make it quite concrete what that shared purpose is. It's the work we can do together, not necessarily our big vision, but something we can work on together. If we define it as an overarching goal where everybody wins, each organization and type of player gets some benefit, and we're also making a good progress to these overarching goals, something bigger than ourselves, then that's when people start to align, get mobilized, and more resources can start flowing in from the different players. Everyone has different strengths to bring to the collective. The process, one way to define it is through this, we call it a magic canoe. It's a canoe shape with two different curves, where the bottom curve is representing the process like theory U, where you go down and understand the system more, and then you come up and prototype and discover what works. And the top curve with the red and yellow is about the relationships that are building. You're building the trust, you're coming to the shared purpose, and then you're using that energy and commitment to fund and mobilize those prototypes. And I call it sort of like pulling back an arrow, because there's a slowing down that happens. Is we're going to stop, we're going to talk, we're going to share. And for some people, that's excruciating to go through that process. We're just talking about visions again. Oh my gosh. But I see it like a bow and arrow. You take some time to slow down, get to really know. And then when you let go, that's when you have a real impact, and you really hit the mark, because you've understood what you know, where you're heading, and then you can go there together. So these five phases are call, convene, clarify, co-create, and celebrate. So in the call phase, that's where somebody feels the issue is really important to them, either in your city or in your issue that you care about, and you say, you know what, I really want to help lead this kind of multi-stakeholder process. I really want us to do a meshwork. So that's the call. So someone who's willing to commit to that process, hopefully all the way through. And that person can call another people they know who they feel would like to hold that call with them. Usually a core team group of about 5 is a nice number that's manageable, can hold the energy. People can come and go. Then there's convene. So you bring all the players together in the system that I talked about earlier, and you go on a learning journey. So you go and visit the factory where things are getting recycled. You go and see the people who are suffering at the homeless shelter, or you share the reports and resources and how decisions are made. So you dig deeper by hearing the perspectives of all those different types of players. And then in the clarify stage, as you deepen that understanding and you're getting to know each other and building that trust, you come to this sort of, it's a high tension, it can be a high tension space, but it can also be like it's deeply creative. So we're starting to really understand the root problem. See, you start to get it. So you get a systems feeling when the system has taken time to see each other, so the system knows itself, and then it becomes much more clear together. And that's when you can define your shared purpose. So that could be a year-long process to just have several meetings, and it starts to crystallize. A really good example of this shared purpose, it was in Hamilton, Canada. The people were doing a collective impact process around graduation rates out of high school. And as they went on their learning journey, one of the key pieces of information they uncovered was that when the government is deciding how much resource they need for the penitentiaries, for the jails, they look at the grade 3 reading scores, and then they know in 10 or 15 years how much jail capacity they're going to need, because they found that is such a strong indicator of success or criminalization in someone's life is if they're succeeding by grade 3 at school. And that really hit everybody in the system and said, wow, what if we did that together? What if we all focused in our community to make sure every single one of our 8-year-old children are supported enough to have good reading and to have that confidence? And then they said, all right, let's try it. So then we come into this co-create phase where we discover what works. We try a few programs, and we share resources to make those programs happen. So they saw business people coming in to read to the school children. The young ones who were falling through the cracks, people were noticing and taking more action to give them more time to make sure that they can catch up, to give them a safe adult to develop with and create that strong foundation at that young age. And then you can just think about how much easier that is actually when we're all working together. We're not fighting against a powerful elite or strong economic pressures, but we're just saying, just through our care and our focus, we're going to do a small difference that's going to make a big difference. And that's part of systems thinking, is looking for those, it's called leverage points. And very often what's missing in our society is that capacity, that care, that time, that presence. We've made everything so fast and so automated because it's to be scaled up, that's often the piece that's really needed. And so it's nice, it's lovely and enjoyable when we're reminded how important that is and take the time and effort to do that. And then we get to celebrate. So convene the people again in different ways, in person and online, and celebrate the successes that you've had, the projects that are launched, and also celebrate the failures, because we learn a lot from the failures. This didn't work. Nobody came. I think it was because of this, let's try it again this way next time, or let's close that program and put the resources into this program that is gathering a lot of energy. So that true feedback and taking measurements of how you're doing and your impact is really important part of the process. So then it says continue. So this can then spiral again. So you can call in more and convene more people and get even more clarity in the system, and co-create more projects with more resources and bring in more influential leaders and bigger dollar amounts. There are a few success elements in a meshwork. One is training. Often the facilitator group will train people on the process. People will train each other in different skills. So we're creating that mindset of becoming a learning group, a learning organization. That's this famous book by Peter Senge that introduces system thinking and introduces how to be a learning organization. And so by always having feedback sessions and learning how to give good critical feedback that's compassionate, all those, and training in how to share our tensions well and deal with that helps build trust in the system. Another is the strategic connecting. So it's great to have people on the team who understand and have those connections to know who has the influence and the power and authority, and how do we bring them together in a way that more people with more power and influence and authority feel that it's credible and they want to join and add their resources to our visions. Then there's the participatory meetings where we're getting together, we're doing processes that build the collective intelligence, where all the voices are heard. We do the art of hosting meaningful conversations is a really wonderful worldwide community who teaches us how to do these processes that bring out the collective intelligence in a group. There's World Cafe, Open Space, Circle, and Pro Action Cafe are the main forms that they teach, but it's all the same thing about how do we disrupt the normal patterns of one person talking and telling us how it is, and the power people sort of just taking charge and moving their agenda forward, shifting the dynamics so that the less powerful voices have an equal say in the process, so that we get different and better results for the collective. Then the next is here the vital signs monitor. So this is a kind of a visual map of the theory of change that we're coming up with through the process. In the center, you have your shared goal that we've come up to, that shared purpose. And then around that, we define the conditions that will help that goal to happen. So if the goal is a certain CO2 reductions in Ottawa, which is be the case that I'll show next, then the conditions are that the houses get retrofit so that each one is using less energy, that the financial tools are in place so that each resident can afford to do the retrofits that they need, and you go around and you say what all those different conditions are that have to be in place, and then you look at your projects that are happening, what are people already doing, or what are new projects that are needed to make sure that we achieve each of those conditions. And then when you evaluate it periodically, so every 6 months or every year, and you just find an easy way to just say, how is it going? Is it blocked? Is it in flow? Are we growing our numbers or not? And then you just give it a color, if it's red for blocked and green for going really well. And then you can see at a glance, how are we doing on all our conditions, and how are the projects doing that are working on those conditions. So you can see here there's a red condition where the projects are blocked and struggling. And so like, okay, what's going on there? Let's spend some attention and energy and see if we can remove some of those blocks. There's also a formal technology platform that groups with larger budgets can use and more professional time to put all of the data in, and you can see you can connect to the different people, see how the conditions are going, and measure it over time. So national governments will implement this when they're doing a bigger meshworking project for a big millennium or sustainable development goal. The implementation support. So there's so many times when we have a visioning exercise, we have a conference, everyone comes and has really great ideas, really big visions, and then we all go home and do the work like we always have and nothing changes. And that starts, once you've done that for a few years, you start to get disheartened or lose energy. So it's really important that we design into the process funds and support for projects to get launched that are actually doing the work of changing system. And we call it moving the needle on the issue that we're trying to address, and measuring it with the vital signs monitor, so we can really see that we're working in new ways, we're getting new money in, we're creating the changes that we know will get us to our outcome. And that's really motivating for everyone. So who funds a Meshwork? I've found that community foundations are a good place to start because they want to achieve these higher order goals. They can't be the sole funder because you'll run out after a few years and there's only so much they can give. But it's a really great start to get the snowball going with corporate funders, with government budgets. Over time, you need time to plan and build trust to get into a government budget. But they can start small and give space, and then even individuals can do fundraising and be members and that sort of thing. So it's really good to have a multifaceted strategy so that money's coming and going at different times and you don't get stuck in a lurch that breaks the energy. The people the collective matures over time. So these first people sitting represent the facilitators or the guides who are being very present and sensing into the field and inviting the others to be present, collaborative, and compassionate with each other. And so that creates a field of coherence where the other people join, they feel it, and they feel uplifted, and they feel safe, and they feel hopeful. And then they're willing also to put in the effort and commitment that this process takes on top of their regular jobs usually. So first, people just usually feel like a network. Oh, hi, I'll scratch your back, you'll scratch mine, and we'll go off and do our work. Thank you. That's good networking. Maybe I'll get a job or a connection. As we spend more time together and teach each other different skills or focus on an area of practice and have fun with the people like us who do the same work, that's a community of practice. And that's something also in the art of hosting world, that people often build these communities of practice. And they're often quite successful if you have a monthly call and different people share their projects and resources with each other, and it builds a caring and effective community. As we do that for longer and we go through these meshworking conversations and journeys and start to have this shared goal together, we mature to this next level of being a community of coherence, where we've heard from enough of us over time that everyone has a sense of the system, everyone knows where we're headed and why and what conditions we're working on, and everyone can follow their own intuition and energy and be contributing well to the system, not being stuck by not knowing if what they're doing is right or not. So we call that optimal agency, when they can just flow and synchronize, and we don't have to map and know everything and plan everything, but it's just flowing out of us, and it's fun and it's magical, and something arrives and oh my gosh, and isn't that amazing? And let's have another beautiful event about it, and also get down to nitty gritty, do the work more. We have to write more proposals and that sort of thing. So that's the process when we're flying beautifully in the wind on the wind of each other's wings in coherence. So I'd like to tell the story in Ottawa, Canada, where I was co-leading a collective impact project funded by the Ontario Trillium Foundation and the Ottawa Community Foundation with a group of nonprofit environmental NGOs. So we wanted to help reduce the greenhouse gas emissions in Ottawa, and usually in the past the environmental agencies would be in a little bit of conflict with the city, sort of judging how they're doing. You're not doing well enough. But through this project, the environmental NGOs worked together with each other, where we used to be competing, mostly competing for funds, and now we work together in a deeper way than we had before, and got to know each other better. And also the NGOs as a group worked better together with the city in ways they never had before. And the city even started hiring us for small jobs that made sense for their green strategies. So we got to see that we were in real partnership, and that was a huge breakthrough. And then we, through the discussions, the people who were in green construction, business people, and government people who work with the bigger finances, we all got together and saw together that, okay, the buildings are a really big portion of the CO2 in Ottawa. We have programs for this. We have the tools. We have the people. We just need to motivate it with the financing and let people know about it and be smart about the way we do it, maybe by area, so that we can get so we can be more efficient. And so we started to make plans and develop our conditions and say, well, if we all work together on this, how can we make a really strong program? And we created a finance lab of how we would meet the financial conditions. And then by the end of the third year, the Ministry of Natural Resources came to us and said, we have $900 million to reduce greenhouse gases. We're looking for good projects, and we noticed you're doing great work. How can we help? And I'm like, okay, collective impact works. So it's really worth, this meshworking really works. And so I will hope that you'll take that into your life, take that into your work. It's a shift from fighting what you don't want to collaborating and creating what you do want. It's so much more joyful. It's so much more nourishing. It takes a lot of time, and I think you get better results in the end than fighting back and forth. And I just want to highlight some of the spiritual or deeper embodied practices that we also used in this project, where we did the systemic constellation work to get a feeling of Ottawa, because the Ottawa had a reputation of being not fun, and so we explored that together, and then I turned that into a poem that I read in one of the events, sort of from the spirit of the city of Ottawa, how it wanted to be and how it wanted to be seen, and how it was calling the people forward to do good work together. And also in one of the last sessions that I ran, because I moved to France, so I was closing my chapter on the project, but I did a ceremony in City Hall where I didn't say it like this, but we planted a terma. I didn't use the word terma. That's a spiritual term in Western Buddhism or something. You plant your intention, anyways, in a place, and so it can grow. And so we did that in City Hall, and I had them write down their commitments and place them in the center and commit to that. And someone came up to me after they said, this is a spiritual process, isn't it? And I said, yeah. and they were like, oh, okay, that's cool. And so it's been fun to bring more consciousness, more love and compassion and care into these business contexts, and to just do it gently and one step at a time, and do deeper spiritual work with people who are into that, and then just bring that back in subtle ways through the imagery, through the artistic expressions, and just make it such an enjoyable experience, so that we're being a vibrant Ottawa built together. So it's bringing that energy, because doesn't the world need that energy these days? And what refreshing that you could bring it. You could be that leader, and anyone can be this kind of leader, because you're a servant leader. You don't have to think of yourself as that authoritarian type of leader to be able to do this. And even if you are really good at motivating and connecting people, this is a really great process to take into your tool belt. So thank you so much. I'll see you around in our communities, and I can't wait to be living into this beautiful world together that we're creating. Bye-bye.